depends on where you're using them and so forth too. It's a problem with speakers.
Well, it's not so much with near-field speakers, because they're intended to be, right there in front of you, right?
Yeah.
Right, but the walls and stuff, I was reading about placement and fixing up your room and so forth, and they said about 5 feet away from walls and corners and stuff, even for near fields, if you want to keep the response as clean as possible.
I don't think my room's 5 feet wide.
I was going to say, most of us don't have that situation. My guitar teacher set up his own studio in his house, which is a fairly large room, and he spent, I don't know how much time and money trying to deal with the room acoustics besides the equipment. And he was a real perfectionist, but it's pretty involved too if you have an ear that good.
Yeah,
I don't.
if you want to mix, if you don't want to spend a fortune, it's probably best just getting a good set of headphones.
Yeah, he did his own mixing, but when he was finally finished with an album project or something, he always took it to some professional to do a final mix down.
The mastering.
So.
Yeah, but as Mike says, if you keep it in a triangle, the sweet spot, I don't think.
Right.
Okay, the acoustic of the room influences, but not that much, I think.
Yeah.
No, I did find the rear-ported ones interacted with the wall, but these ones don't.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting. But I've been surprised that I got myself for my computer speakers downstairs. So when I work, I got myself the Bowers & Wilkins MM1s. A very small, tiny little thingies. I'm not sure if I can move them. Let's see. What I'm surprised though is that I love mixing on them. I didn't buy them for that. See, these are really small.
Wow, those are small.
Right. And actually, I found out that when I mix on them, they translate very well to other systems. Really, really well. When I mix on my Adam A7s, they always sound dull because the high end is so pronounced, or so detailed. Let's say.
The end taste of each person influences a lot also.
Yeah, but I'm surprised about these Bowers & Wilkins. I just bought them for listening, but now I really like mixing on them also. So.
Yeah.
That's good.
So, I recorded a video today. I haven't been able to upload it yet. It's still in
the hype about
Animoog is actually awesome.
Animoog,
yeah. So what I actually did was, it goes back to what we said last time, is I set up the Pico and the Alpha in the same setup. So I've got Pico. I just did this in 10 minutes right before. So nice. I changed my setup. You know that MIDI setup that I posted for the Pico?
Yeah.
I basically renamed the agents there so there were no conflicts with the Alpha agents, so I can post that script. And so it just runs alongside. So
nice.
I see. So I've got my Alpha connected up. And at the same time, I've got the Pico that just sends out MIDI.
MIDI to the Animoog, Good.
It's really, really nice actually. I love this app. It's
Still haven't got the time to buy it.
It's $1.
Yeah. So I checked it out. It came out tonight. This morning. I've seen it.
Hi, Daniel. So now just talking to you guys, what I was actually now thinking is, since you can set up the Pico together with the Alpha, you could actually use the Pico as a controller for the Alpha. And
also, we talked about that.
Yeah, but even without going through MIDI, since they run in the same setup, you can tie a talker to the Pico keys that interact with what goes on the Alpha.
Yeah, I would like to
Yeah, it's not actually not difficult. I'll send you the script out, Antonio. It's
Okay.
just one script, and then it turns into this MIDI thing, and then you can edit that script if you want to afterwards.
Yeah, nice.
Have you guys played with the Animoog app at all? Mike, did you try it out?
Yeah, I've been doing that all morning.
It's awesome, isn't it?
It's incredible. It really is.
It's
I don't have an iPad yet, so.
So basically, my screen is flipped, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shit! How do I get off of it?
I'm seeing it correctly.
Are you seeing it correctly? I see my screen's flipped. Maybe that's okay.
I think it does that. I think it reverses
for yourself.
For you. Yeah.
Okay. So you see the buttons to the right. These buttons are to the right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see them to the left. Yeah. So if you haven't looked at it, I don't know if you realize how this works, Mike, but it took me a while to understand what these timbres were. So basically what I've figured out is that this XY pad, so the idea of the Animoog is that any oscillator and any sample sound source or whatnot follows a path on this XY grid, and this path is something that you can edit, so you can move these points around. So each node will follow the path, and as it moves vertically, it actually morphs in between the sound sources that you set up in these timbres. I didn't realize that for quite a while. So this allows you to actually make this very these sounds that nicely modulate over time, and then at the same time, so I just see here what I like a lot. Is this one particular patch. Where is it again? Delta Goblins. I don't know. Tell me if you guys can see what I do. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you see this circle that's being followed? That's one node that moves in a circle, right? And based on polypressure, it changes the speed of the modulation.
Wow.
So as I actually press down on the key on the Pico, it goes faster. But it does that independently for each key, right? Since it's the Eigenharp.
Of course.
Right? I can have one key doing this crazy motor thing, and the other one surrounding it with a regular circle. You see that?
Yep.
Yes.
And then I can just merge them together, and you get this weird, this weird shape.
Even without the sound, the visuals are great.
The visuals are amazing.
Yeah.
Actually, the visuals are a great visualization for the Eigenharp.
Yes. Yes.
Great minds think alike. When I saw that little demo that you linked to on Twitter, I said, wow, now that's the type of interface we need.
Can you? And what I liked about this interface, so you can see the path being followed by the node, which is this little dot that goes back and forth, right?
Right.
And I should add a second node. You can see the second dot going. And that's your third dot. So yes, I really, really like this Animoog thing.
Yeah.
They should build it for us into an audio unit.
Yeah, just put it in.
And you have an interface that gets the audio out and the MIDI in. Is that correct?
Yeah. So what I have is I've got the Alesis ioDock.
Right. Okay.
Right. And that
so the iPad plugs into that.
Yeah, so I've got a MIDI connector to the side here that goes into the computer, but it also has let me see, it's got these regular MIDI ports right next to it. You know if you can see them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
round ones.
So you've got headphone outputs to the side here, which is a handy headphone output, and then here I've got two balanced jack cables, TRS cables, going into my audio interface here. So
wow,
right?
Yeah, it's handy.
Yeah, and the ioDock. So what happens is the USB MIDI is seen as a regular MIDI device in OS X, in OS 10.
Yeah.
And then you can select it in EigenD and then use it with the Eigenharp.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just to divide the how you call it, the connection kit or something.
Right.
It also works with guys. It also works with mirroring beautifully. Well, that's a 64-inch TV running it on, and it's great. So
That's awesome, Mike. Show that again.
Hold on. I just got to get the unit.
You got to play something on it now so that we can see things move on that TV screen.
I don't know if I can hold this steady enough. I'm holding my laptop in one hand, but
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Oh, very nice.
So if you have not tried it out, what I like a lot about the Animoog also is that for the first time, this is the first iPad app, and I think I tried all instruments on the iPad, where I feel that the playing keys are actually perfect for the iPad. I can't imagine them being better than that. Of course, they don't have pressure. Sorry, Mike?
They're really very good.
Yeah. So basically what they are, they're these... I think that these things exist in modular synthesizers, don't they? Is this metal contact surface where when you slide up, they send out other CV, don't they?
I think they come from Buchla.
Yes, that's possible.
Structure.
So you can just move like this and then glide like that.
Yeah. Just talking to Larry here, you can also get small interface, MIDI interface, so you can hook it up to an iPad or an iPhone.
The problem with that, though, the reason why I got the Alesis is that otherwise you have to mess about with this stereo mini jack that comes out of the iPad, and the audio gets a real mess.
Yeah, and it's an all package thing.
How much does the Alesis interface cost?
I think it's 200 euros or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a microphone preamp in it also, and so you can do serious stuff with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I just love how this responds.
I definitely like the multi-touch display and all the things it does too. It's just amazing.
It's actually quite interesting to play around with that path.
Yes.
And the way the thing orbits the path, like you were showing one where it sort of stays on the path, but it also, you have an ability to have it do little orbits around them.
Yes. So basically, as it moves through the modulation, through the timbres, it can circle around the path that it follows and then do the modulation as it moves around.
Yeah.
It's which one is it again?
Amazing. Sounds like something I have in a dream sometimes. This is actually out there working.
It is really quite astounding.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, Just can't keep up with it all.
Oops.
Now I have to get an iPad.
That's what on the commercial, one of the guys says that, oh great, now I have to get an iPad.
But you know, I've found that the iPad is actually fairly cost effective. By the time you buy a $50 navigation system,
absolutely.
You know, if you add all the function together, you can't replace it for anywhere near the cost of the thing.
Yes.
Yeah. I got the first one simply because of the multi-touch of the screen. That's just that by itself. It's more than cost-effective, as you're mentioning.
So one other thing that I noticed, it's the first time that this happens to me, but I'm actually hitting, and I forgot to disable that here. I'm hitting the limitations of MIDI, regular MIDI port with going out to the Alesis ioDock. If I set up the standard mappings that from the Pico MIDI setup that I posted last week, if I add the standard mappings each key sends out 3 streams and it does pitch bend at the same time, well then once in a while it misses note off because there's just not enough bandwidth. So I have to to trim everything down because
yeah, it'd be very interesting, given that OSC is sort of available for the iPad, to sort of switch over to that. It'd be interesting to work. That was part of what I meant earlier, Geert.
Yes.
It'd be interesting to work with the Moog guys to demonstrate that. And I think they'd be interested in demonstrating it with such a high bandwidth input device.
Yeah, yeah. But the thing is that I think that Animoog has been designed to be able to actually fit the Eigenharp perfectly. I don't know if you looked much at the modulation sources. Let me see. So, if you've got modulation sources here, so they only have 4 modulations set up, which is a shame. Ideally, you'd like to have a bunch more when you work with the Eigenharp. But still, so you've got these destinations to the right here, which allows you to change filter frequency, frequency, the speed that goes around the orbit, the speed goes through the path and stuff like that. But at the same time, if you see here, you can control all these with polypressure, which means that they set up the entire architecture to be able to do per note modulations of all these destinations. Otherwise, you would not be able to select polypressure and go towards anything else. So the first request that I sent them was if they could please support polyphonic MIDI channel mode, so that they would create multi-timbral input from MIDI devices. So I explained that to them how that worked. And because it seemed that technically the architecture is there to just be able to, instead of, because you can already select pitch bend and mod wheel. If they would just open this up to be able to keep it together with the note that was played and detect the MIDI channels that it belongs to, then you get 2 additional polyphonic control streams without any GUI changes actually.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think that this could be the perfect Eigenharp synthesizer.
Yeah.
That was
We just have to get rid of MIDI.
exactly.
That's what I mean. Most of the time, you don't run up against limitations with what's out there, but when you look at the specifications for it, you go, boy, that's kind of slow and limited, and compared to all the interfaces people have nowadays. So, but I guess OSC is the next step, huh?
Well, I mean, the serial MIDI interface is slow. Once you get past that, it's coding, right?
Yes.
Like if you're going over USB or if you're internal to the machine, you don't have that strict bandwidth limitation.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah. But I'm hitting that bandwidth limitation with MIDI USB here, strangely.
Yeah.
That's got to be an implementation thing, right?
Probably.
It's not really bandwidth.
What I'm wondering about is if the Alesis ioDock didn't, if they don't go through the same internal port. So they've got the physical MIDI inputs and then the USB inputs, and that they're all routed towards the same. So I'm wondering if that's not what is happening.
That would be a reasonable way to implement that device.
Yeah, certainly for the price. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but OSC is an interesting step forward. Would be ideal if we could even get away from OSC, because there's a lot of overhead in OSC. Everything has to go through text. So that means that there's a lot of bandwidth that is wasted just transforming a data value into a textual representation and then passing that text and then creating a new data value from it. There's a lot of waste. So
is there anything else out there yet for doing that? I mean, OSC is the best that is out there at the present time over MIDI?
Well, the best, it's a strong word, because there's still no formal specification for music over OSC.
Okay.
So OSC is basically a control protocol where everything and anything is possible. And the only way that people have been doing music over OSC is to basically channel MIDI over OSC, which is a bit stupid. So there's the high-res MIDI working group is doing stuff, but it's very closed. You need to pay a yearly subscription just to be able to get to the work in progress specification. And I heard from people that are on it that it's not really that interesting. So, I don't know why they're doing that in such a closed format for a specification. It's,
Maybe there's not enough market for people to develop. Everybody's reasonably happy with MIDI. That's the big market. I don't know.
But I think the main driving force there is that until the Eigenharp and a little bit the Continuum, there haven't been any instruments that were able to send out the required data to make MIDI obsolete. So as long as the majority of the instruments send out data that don't exceed the capabilities of MIDI, well, then MIDI is good enough.
Yeah, and it's not just the hardware. It's also the point that you made when you were with Roger Lynn, where the performer is playing the envelope. Like a lot of MIDI stuff now, and a lot of the samplers use articulation, and they do animation in the synth. So you actually don't have to send that data.
No.
It's handled at the other end, and even I think that'll actually be an advantage of this particular thing we were looking at on the iPad, because a lot of that animation doesn't require a lot of control bandwidth.
Right.
It can hopefully it can absorb it, but I think that in addition to the hardware not being able to provide the input, many of the sounds have not really been designed to require it. In fact, they've been designed specifically to not require it.
Yes, which is when you work with some software synthesizers or samplers, you sometimes have to spend like 10 minutes turning everything off. Okay, I don't want this, and I don't want that stuff. And
yeah. Well, I find myself regularly telling people that some of the best sounds for an Eigenharp are these really simple sound fonts that have no, articulation in them at all, because all of a sudden you can breathe life into them.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So yes, well, I'm pretty glad that I got this. This is the first time for me to get this setup working together. Pico and Alpha together.
Yeah.
So well, what the heck? Let's try it. It really just took 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Taking the same script that I did for the Pico MIDI setup and changing the names, and that's it.
You came up that last week, and okay, it's nice to hear.
Sorry, I can't keep my hands off this thing. It's
yeah. I have a lot of here around, but I managed to install it already here, so I have to see it.
So yeah, now Larry really feels left out because he doesn't even have an iPad.
I don't even have an iPad.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I said, boy, if I had an iPad, then I'd be spending all my time learning and using that, and I wouldn't be learning the Alpha.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
which is still definitely a big challenge.
I was surprised.
The basic stuff in Stage is okay, but when I try to get into the software, it's still a big challenge.
Much of the iPad stuff is pretty straightforward. I was surprised that the Tenori-on on the iPad is file compatible with the real one.
Yes,
Really?
yeah, I use that. Yeah, I've done some pretty wild things on the iPad and bring it on to the real one.
So how are these files saved off of the real Tenori-on? There's like MIDI sys dumps or something?
No, I don't think so.
No, there's some kind of proprietary file format, but they just load back and forth.
How do you get them out of it? Is it a USB stick or?
Yeah, no, it's the CD SD card. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let me go to get mine.
They're another thing that you can spend a lot of time playing with.
Tenori-on?
Yeah.
That's not really my kind of thing.
Sorry.
It's,
I didn't think so either.
I got mine pretty crazy. I've talked to Geert about this, I think. No, maybe, yeah, I think so. But it's cute to have something in your hands translating to lights. Because I do lots of things with children's and smaller children's even, and it's fun to have it. Yeah, something like that. It's just on the speaker, so
I can hear it.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, really, for me, the thing is that I'm always very quickly bored by anything that's got to do with sequencing. Anything that has some kind of step sequence.
Repeating.
It's personally, it's just not my thing. It's just
yeah. By now, I realize that because you don't like also that much of the arranger. But there's funny ways to come up with sequences, slowing the time. I don't know. There's a lot. Of course, time is always a nasty thing, but I by now would like the arranger to come to manage other events and not note events.
It's something that's still on the feature list.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Antonio, that's something that's still planned on the feature list.
Okay.
Yeah.
So instead of just having note on and off with a fixed velocity, you can actually, while the arranger is running, kind of play on the steps, right? And based
and
on it records the actual data stream that you put in there. At that time, but just
probably. I was mentioning something different. Instead of you record notes, you record. Let me see. Other events, other MIDI events. I think that could be also possible and not so difficult to come up.
So then the arranger could be controlling some of the sound parameters rather than actually, and then you would play notes, say, on top of that.
Yeah.
But the arranger would be changing the timbre of the sound, or a lot of these different things that you could control with the different CCs. Yeah. That'd be real interesting to have that going.
I don't think that that would be too difficult to come up.
It is quite difficult though, Antonio, because it's
changing what is the input of the arranger.
It's basically kind of depends on what kind of data streams you want to put in there and take out of there. Actually, the arranger then becomes sort of like the recorder, where it dynamically creates data streams and stuff like that. And so it is quite a big difference. Basically, what the arrangement currently does is it triggers talkers on the recorder. It doesn't output anything. It as a sequencer step goes off, it triggers a talker, which is a very quick and dirty way to do what it does, but it works. Going to a much more flexible implementation is quite a bit of work, because currently the arrangement doesn't output any real data streams.
So Geert, I wonder though if it wouldn't be possible for it to create something that it could trigger that could keep things over time. So, for example, when you're recording, there's this sense of time flow, but the arranger really only triggers something that's fixed. But I wonder if you couldn't trigger mini recordings that would let you, say, record the expression of an envelope in, so you would set a period of time, say a 10th or a 20th or 30th of a second, and record those and then trigger those.
But that's what we were planning. We were planning to do something along that line. So,
okay.
So that you can basically, wherever you are on the arranger, whatever key you use, whatever your roll, breath, strip you use at that particular moment, it will just keep that particular performance data. But it's quite a big difference to an implementation. Larry, I wanted to show you what Mike was talking about with the orbiting. So if you see the because I found the patch that does this quite nicely. Okay. So let's just keep this straight, because I'm flipped around on the screen. So.
Right. Yeah.
So you see now it goes mostly straight, right?
Oh yeah.
But if I press down, right?
Oh my word.
So as I
You're
press
going to have
down
to
on
be an
the
iPad
key,
salesman.
as I press down on the key, it becomes they become orbits.
That is so cool. Just what I need, more stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I was thinking about back with the Eigenharp, with it outputting MIDI from the arranger, I wouldn't necessarily be using those MIDI outputs as notes, but when I go back into Ableton, you have audio clips and MIDI clips, and you can trigger those with a MIDI note.
Yeah, that you can already do.
So,
with the
so the
current
arranger
arrangers.
would be running things which are whole bunches of different clips, and those clips can be run in a follow mashing, and you can put random stuff in there. So every time the arranger came around, you'd be getting something different if you wanted to set it up that way.
Yeah, but that's possible now. So if you want to do that,
yeah.
you can do that. If you just point.
Yeah, I've already basically done that. Because I got a script or some Bill Canto from Antonio that allows me to output MIDI from the arranger, and then I can take that MIDI into Ableton, and then I can MIDI learn Ableton that those MIDI notes are not notes; they are things to trigger clips.
Right. Yes.
And then the world is just
Yeah.
huge, because you can have whole strings of clips that have what they call foul actions, and after a certain time it evaluates it and it goes to do something else. Either plays the same thing again, or goes on to the next one, or goes to the end, goes to the beginning, and then you can randomize that into multiple choices, and you just never know what you're going to get when you punch a key.
Yeah.
Now that's experimental.
We need more hours.
Yeah. Now that's experimental, Geert.
I want to see that. You might have to record that on YouTube, make a demo out of it.
Yeah. Well, it's one of my many projects I got in my head here. The biggest limitation right now is I've got to set up Ableton and MIDI in from the Eigenharp to all my hardware to get together at the present time, because I'm running Ableton on a PC laptop. So I have a few minor hardware issues I just got to sort out. It's mostly just moving stuff into my room and moving stuff around and moving cables and things like that.
So we're going to sell you a Mac Pro too then, eh?
I've already got a MacBook Pro.
Oh, well.
That's what I'm running my Alpha with. But Ableton is a monster program, and it uses a lot of bandwidth, especially when you start doing crazy stuff with it. And I figured it's probably better to have it as a separate unit, because on top of that, I already have a separate unit. It's just a matter of figuring out how to get my MIDI into the laptop right now. But that's not
I
a
was
big
fishing,
issue.
but you didn't bite.
Oh yeah.
Well, he doesn't even need a MacBook Pro anymore, since
That's true.
1.4 now just runs fine on Windows 7 with all the features on the Eigenharp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to stay with the MacBook to talk to the Eigenharp. I just don't like Windows and trust Windows that much. Even though that's what I've used for years, I just see that Mac is a better interface for the Eigenharp software.
But basically, the whole what I like, basic things that I really like about it is the integration of the virtual MIDI devices on the Mac. It's something that's so well done with the network MIDI and core MIDI, and the fact that everything just can talk together and work together and
the audio.
Yeah, the audio is very nicely done also. But the MIDI stuff is really well thought out.
My audio is going out through the FireWire port into an interface, and then I go from there, which is probably better than the earphone jack and so forth. So.
Oh yeah. But what I do now, actually, I'm not doing it now. I'm going the other way around. But I really like about every Mac, I think PCs nowadays do that also, is to have that digital audio in and out over light pipe, which means that you actually, if you've got an audio interface that supports Toslink in and out, you basically get another additional 2 channels, because you can just, without any loss, output digital audio and get it in your interface without having to go through the analog domain. And,
Okay.
and I like how easy it is to set that up.
There are Higgins trying to connect, but she can't, I think.
I don't know.
Yeah, I tweeted back, but
It's a public hangout, so anyone can join.
I don't know. She tried on Chrome, on Opera, and on Firefox. Don't know. Yeah.
I during the pause, the Purelator person just came, which is always a shock to me because I live way out in the woods. But they happened to deliver some stuff from Canon, and in the last couple of weeks there's been such a fuss about the subscription thing. I happen to also be part of Canon Professional Services, which is a paid support thing. And so they send you swag. It's really nice. Got a nice coat that says Canon Professional. But it's actually more than Eigenlabs is intending to charge for service, and really, other than quick turnaround and loaner equipment and a few other advantages, there's not much to it. So I think all I'm trying to say is that I found this subscription rate and idea perfectly acceptable.
But what is a little bit of a pity about that is that, and we regretted it afterwards, the way that we formulated it. But if you really think about what this subscription is, it's not a subscription. It's basically whenever you want, you pay the price for the next major version. And then you get free upgrades for a year.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to upgrade, you don't pay. And if 2 years later you want to get the current version, major version, then you just upgrade to the new major version. Sure. The reason why we did it like that is since we've got the experimental and testing releases, which are basically not stable major versions, but we want people to be able to tinker around with them. So the model where you pay once and just buy a new version of the software without getting some kind of automatic upgrades over time doesn't really work. So that's why it's kind of a mixture of subscription and traditional upgrades. So that's actually basically you know how much an upgrade is going to cost, and you get free upgrades after that for a year. If you don't want to upgrade at that time, then you don't. It's not like we're not
automatically. Is very reasonable.
Yeah, we're not billing automatically, or you're not signing a contract for 10 years, or it's like it's just
it probably wasn't explained very well. That would be my first take.
It's possible, yeah.
I just even bothered to chime in on it because I really wasn't sure what John was talking about. So I said, I'm not going to get all huffy or upset or anything else to really understand what he's talking about. And it sounds similar to like Native Instruments.
Yeah.
I mean, they had Complete 7 or whatever, and then if you want to go to Complete 8, well, you pay the upgrade cost. Yes. You don't buy a whole new system, but you pay the upgrade cost, which is less than a whole new one.
And
by the way, I just got my Complete 8.
Yes. And if you want to wait 3 years with Native Instruments also, you wait 3 years and then you get the latest version of Complete. With EigenD will be the same thing. If you want to wait 3 years, you just wait 3 years. And in the meantime, don't forget, there's the open source version that people have already started building binaries from and sharing it with others. And so if you find anyone, and you will have to try very hard to find no one that can compile it for you. But if you can find someone that can compile it for you, then you just take it from the open source release. So then it's free. So,
yeah, it's a whole different world here, and also, I mean, the numbers and the dollars and all these other things are so much different for the Eigenharp as opposed to some huge manufacturer that has a big customer and investor database and things like that too. So,
but it's not only that, Larry. It's basically the cost of fabricating the instrument is so high due to the quality of the components, of the parts, of the attention to detail, of the Q&A on the instruments. I think out of the thousands of Pico that we sold, we only had one come back in.
Wow.
with a fault, which was basically due to corrosive spit, but only one. So it's all that factored in. It's just no major manufacturer is gonna build something at that precision for a lower price, because it just takes so much detail and attention to do it right. It's like saying to a luthier, how do you say this in English?
In English,
an instrument builder, let's say, makes a violin, and say, or guitar, and say, hey, Seagull makes a guitar for $90. Why don't you make a guitar for $90?
Yeah.
Right.
And he says to you, well, because I spent a month, working on this wood and trying it and picking it out and then shaping it and putting the lacquer on it and making sure that everything's right and making it for you. And just can't compare. You're in another. It's another product. So
yeah. And just his knowledge base of working with it for so long. I got a real high-end guitar by James Olson. You may have heard of him.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to wait 2 years for it because he was changing around some of his manufacturing setup, or whatever you want to call it, his shop setup, I guess. He's a sole person. He just makes it all by himself.
Yeah.
But then when I got it, I pulled it out of the case, and it was very pretty, and it sounded okay, but not super great. But like 3 or 4 months later, oh my, what happened? This thing is just amazing. So how did he know when he was building it that it was going to turn into that?
Yes.
I mean, that's got to be years of experience to do that.
So yeah. Anyway, we're all happy with our instruments.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just nothing else like it. There's really no competition for the Eigenharp, especially the Alpha, which is all I know. And if you want to do that, I mean, it's the only place in town, or the only game in town, whatever. And
it is.
I'm very grateful that it's there, to tell you the truth. When you stop and think about it.
I'm not saying this because I work for Eigenlabs now, because you all know that I started out as a user. But I'm still amazed that if I think of what's inside this Pico, it's like each key has got 3 lights underneath it that's being kept in a sealed compartment where no light can go out, and then it interpolates, and the pressure is being measured optically. And then everything is corrected for temperature and flex and bending, and because this is metal, it changes over time. Everything is automatically compensated, and it just blows my mind how still today how this is made. It's,
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see a detailed description of how the whole inside of it worked.
Well,
it must be amazing.
Send an email to John. He wrote a presentation that he gave a couple of months ago. Was there to the Audio Engineering Society of Britain, where he explains exactly how the keys work.
Wow, I'd
in
love to see
detail,
that,
with cross sections and stuff like that, and taken apart piece by piece.
That would be great.
Yeah, send him an email and ask him for that presentation. He'll send it to you.
Okay, I just assumed that would have been a proprietary, patented. I don't want anybody else to know this wonderful stuff.
No, I think it is patented.
I'm sure it is,
but it's not proprietary.
Not proprietary.
Well, that's
not keep it to ourselves in terms of knowledge. John likes.
Once you've got it patented, you just assume somebody licensed it from you, right? So the more you explain how wonderful it is,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's only when it's a trade secret that it needs to be secret.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
absolutely.
You can feel
every day. Yeah, every day I touch it. It's amazing.
It's just even working. I'm amazed with this Animoog app. If you just, where is that again? That sounds. It's because it really. Today I had again. It's like, oh my god, this feels so nice with the Eigenharp keys.
Yeah.
And it sounds amazingly analog, given that it isn't.
Yeah. But I think they sampled all the timbres, the sound sources from real synths, if I read it correctly.
There's a huge discussion on Synthopia since midnight of today. I've been
on that
following
point?
it.
Oh, another religious war. Oh, good.
I mean, I just think whatever sounds, if it sounds good coming out of your speakers, it doesn't matter to me how it got there necessarily. The final result is a good sound. Maybe that's simplistic, but
well, this got me curious into real analog though. So even more so than what I've been looking at since last week.
Yeah.
So when does yours arrive, Geert?
I haven't ordered it yet. This this guy is strangely unresponsive. He replied to one email.
Macbeth?
Yeah, he replied to one email on Thursday, and I've sent him 2 replies to that. I haven't heard anything since. For a one-man shop, it's quite rare having such,
such
5
like
days of delay. I don't know. It's a bit strange in my opinion, but we'll see. I love the way
busy
his
building
stuff
them.
looks. I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
No.
It reminds me so much of the original Moog synthesizer, which I got to play with for part of a day way back in the mid-1970s.
Mm-hmm.
It was, half the size of a room, and there were more buttons and cables and knobs to look at. And, of course, this was before computers, basically, in the early 1970s. And so everything you did was monophonic, and part of the room, this is in the Indiana University digital experimental sound lab, whatever they called it, was recording stuff onto a big multi-track Ampex 2-inch wide tape deck. And then you'd layer up your sounds from one at a time that way.
Right.
And then you didn't like the first one. You forgot how you got to the first one. which cables, which knobs did I have set where? I can't quite get the same sound again. It was fascinating. I just love knobs and cables anyhow. So.
But it's one of the things that still makes me. I'm still wondering if I'm gonna go for a Moog Voyager rag mount version with a CV input. Output. They've got 2 expanders.
Well, that's certainly the simplest way to go.
Yeah, what I like about it is the fact that you can you save your patches.
Well, you can't save your cabling.
No, you
so
can't. Right, but still.
You need your iPhone. That works fine. You just take a picture.
Yeah, that's an idea.
Well, that's exactly what I did.
You can save the knob positions.
It'll save them. So what happens on a Voyager is the knobs are analog, but they're sampled. And so you end up with a digitally controlled analog synth where you can actually save the patches.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, I think. I mean, if you want to duplicate something and then you don't want to spend all day trying to get that exact same setting that you like so much, and some of those settings are so sensitive, you just make a slight change on one knob and you got a totally different sound happening. That's
what amazed me. I had one years and years ago, and I never figured that out, that in fact the slightest nudge of a knob makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't very happy with it at the time. I'm very happy with my Voyager. What I'll say about for example, the Voyager or any of their products is until I got a lot of Fogers and did some outboard stuff or stuff in the insert channel, it wasn't anywhere near as flexible as a modular synth, right?
Right.
Oh, right. Okay.
So although the MIDI Murph Foger is fabulous, the multi-resonant filter, it's really worth a look.
Yeah, I'll have a look at it. Yeah, but I'm still wondering if that loss of flexibility based compared to a modular, if that's that much of a deal to me compared to the fact that I can digitally save the patches, not the patch chords, but the knob positions, and it's that I'm still torn between those things.
I went through that exact decision process, and I just decided my hobby wasn't really patching.
Right.
It wasn't really. I didn't want to spend that much time actually figuring out how to play a modular, which you really do, right? You really play the knobs.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
So yes, I might not get the modulator.
One thing I like about the Macbeth is he has a number of those controls are 10-turn potentiometers, which have their little scales and dials on them.
Yes.
So I don't know for sure, but I would think that might make it a little bit easier to duplicate settings. You just go to 5.3 or whatever, you can read off on the dial that way.
Sure.
And it might be more repeatable, at least on those controls.
Yes.
Yeah, then all you have to do is write them down.
Right, yeah, well, or else you have to have a memory like, I don't know what.
I even forget my guitar chords, so... And I do exactly the same thing as what you say, Mike. I just take a picture of it.
Yeah.
Or I record a little video. And, I found a nice thing to play. Let's record it on video, otherwise I'll forget it.
Very good.
Yes. Well, this was a fun one. We're almost done. And the kids are going to get home, so...
Yeah.
And I'm going to have another one Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Two other people, one from New Zealand and one from California.
Cool.
Yeah.
Decided on that. So if anybody else wants
Central
to chime in,
what is that? Is that East Coast time or?
that's
Central.
Central time, Central Daylight, and
I think.
Oh, so yeah, that's right in the middle of the night for me then, right?
Yeah, I mean, because right now it's almost 10 o'clock Central Daylight, 10 o'clock a.m. Here.
So it's in like...
And I guess it's almost 5 o'clock in Central Europe.
So that's 6 hours later?
7, I think. 7, yeah.
Yeah, it's daylight time. It'll be 6 in a few months.
Yeah, and just to add to our confusion, in America, they extended daylight savings time extremely long. So I'm not sure for sure, but I think Europe is going to change away from daylight savings time
a week
before America does.
There's a week left.
Yeah.
There's a week
we don't change until mid-November, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. There's 1 week where it drifts apart.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I got to bail.
Like
Okay, me too. Very nice talking to you guys. See you next week.
Take care.
Okay.
Yeah.
See
Thanks
you
a lot.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See y'all soon. Bye-bye.